All right, what is going on, guys? We are going to go ahead and get started this morning. Hopefully, you guys all had a fantastic Wednesday evening. It is Thursday, December 1st, the start of a new month. Welcome, welcome. First things first, I want to go ahead and welcome anyone that is new to the Patreon, to the private Twitter. We are so stoked to have you in for the month of December. Welcome to the Pre-Market Live. This is going to be the time of the morning where I go over my top watch list and focus setups for the day ahead for 15 to 20 minutes every single morning. We're going to get on here around 9:10 to 9:15 every single morning, and I'm going to go ahead and cover the exact setups and watch list that I'm going to have going into the day ahead, guys. This is going to be where I talk about those 3 setups that I'm going to be focused on in the first hour and a half of the day ahead. And then after the pre-market live, I'm going to go ahead and get on the Discord live trading. That's where I'm going to be live on voice, and you'll be able to listen to me trade live every single morning from 9:30 until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So once again, could not be happier to have you in the room. Let's get into the charts themselves. Obviously, this morning, guys, we did have a pretty positive reaction to the data set. Like I said, S&P 500 is up 1/3 of 1% right now, guys. This is the 15-minute view, right? We are breaking over yesterday's high, which was that 408 zone, guys. In after hours, we did touch that 408.7 area, and we have held that area so far, right? So no discernible pullback yet. We did try to touch that 410 area, which is an area that a lot of people have kind of denoted as that next psychological resistance, right? The bigger reason that we are experiencing some resistance at that spot is we are peaking over or into this trend line as we speak on the weekly. This is from our all-time high on the S&P 500, guys, and we are peaking right into that trend line. We closed over the 200-day moving average on the S&P 500 for the first time yesterday since April. That is a pretty big deal. Like I said, guys, we ran really hard yesterday. S&P 500 up 3.15%. QQQ up 4+%. So a really, really discernible move yesterday on Fed Chair Powell's comments. I think that it was more interpreted as him coming off a little bit more dovish. I think part of that was we saw a very low PMI number. That PMI number was almost to the levels that we saw during the pandemic lows. And so obviously the Fed has taken note that the economy has slowed considerably, and therefore I think, maybe we saw just a not as hawkish tone yesterday. We will see if this is an overreaction or not. But today is going to be a big day, and really today and tomorrow are going to be very, very important, guys. It is going to be all about how do we treat this trend line on the S&P 500. If we can close this weekly candle above this weekly trend line, we do have a lot of setups that are ready for continuation, right? Yesterday was that really big move that we have been consolidating for on the daily for a very long time now on the S&P. And so coming into today, you can see, guys, we spent almost 2 straight weeks in about a $10 range, and yesterday we broke out. So the one thing I do want to say is don't underestimate the length of the move that we can see here, right? This could be a very powerful move up to that 415 resistance area, and really over 410, I wouldn't be surprised to see that 420 area come into play, which I think is going to provide a much larger area of resistance. However, we need to see how we act today. I can't stress that enough, guys. We've given up these gap ups a lot, and so we need to see, is today going to be the day where that first dip that we do get, maybe back towards that 407 to 405 area, is that dip purchased, right? That's really going to be the question in my opinion. So again, as my top focus setups for today is going to be relatively simple and clear. I'm going to be watching Tesla very closely today, guys. This is going to be my top watch. Obviously, they're doing the semi-truck delivery today. But really, the bigger news is I think that we're going to try to test this 202 area of resistance on the daily chart. Guys, if you look, we have talked about this setup multiple times, right? And really, the key level that we're coming into first is this 198.70 area, which I detailed on the scan this morning. And then if we can get through that 198.70 area, which we did touch in pre-market, if you look right now, currently pre-market high is 198.44. So if we can get through this 198.50 area, I do think we have a pretty good shot at testing that 202 area of resistance on the daily, right? If you look at the daily chart, obviously we had some pretty strong support in that $200 psychological level resistance area. However, coming into today, the big test is going to be, well, can we see a move that really clears through that, what I expect to be very heavy resistance, right? The last daily high that we made was towards that 202 area. So that's where I'm going to be targeting. Tesla seems to be the strongest name right now currently in pre-market. So again, what I'm going to be focused on is if we do get a dip towards this 191.30 area, this would be an area I would look at possibly seeing if we're going to, see, the first dip bought, quote unquote, right? What we don't want to see, or at least what bulls don't want to see, I don't really have, a true bias here, but I would like to see continuation on these setups. However, like I said, we're going to need to see that first, discernible pullback bought, in my opinion. But again, I'm going to trade the setup here. If we get over that 198.70 area, I do think we can see a move to 202. So I do like this one. I mentioned yesterday my focus on here was going to be the 12.9, $215 calls on Tesla. So I'd be looking at next week's 215C on Tesla if we can get through that 198.70 area. My top focus of the day is Meta, META. And why is that? Well, let's look at the Meta weekly, guys. The Meta daily chart, and we'll come back right over here. This is the Meta daily chart, right? We have a clear gap above our most recent high, which was that 118.70 area. If we can see a discernible move through 118.70, which we are going to, it looks like, open up right at that 118.60 area, this is going to be my top focus setup today. A move over 118.70, I think, will be in that pretty clear gap above, and I would not be surprised to see a move to that 123.50 area of resistance, which was that prior support before earnings, above. Now, why is this my top focus setup? Well, it's not just because of the gap fill that we do have here on the daily chart, guys, but the part of the reason that this is my top focus setup is we saw very, very heavy put closing yesterday in Meta. If you saw me post the flow on the private Twitter last night prior to the scan, you will see that I denoted how heavily we saw in that put closing, right? We saw almost 9-figure put closing, guys, on Meta. That is no small deal. You guys know that has probably been one of my most powerful tools in terms of confirmation indicators, has been looking at put closing, because what we're seeing there is we are seeing bearish bets against the stock closed out. And what does that mean? That means that somebody thinks that we are going to see a short-term rise in stock price because they don't want to be exposed to that position any longer, right? And that's going to show up as bearish flow on cheddar flow. But really, if you look at it, nobody would be opening a put with that type of delta. Those puts were the 380 puts, right? They're extremely deep in the money, right? 200 points in the money. Nobody's going to open up a put with that to get downside exposure with that delta, right? And we've seen those before. Oftentimes, that is institutional put closing that is happening. So, again, for that reason, Meta is going to be my top focus today. It looks like we're going to open up just above that gap fill territory. I'm going to be watching very closely, guys, to see if we hold that area. If we do not hold that area, right, I think that would be a little bit of a red flag for me. However, one thing that I would look at is if we pull back into this 117.40 area, right, and towards, yesterday's close, this is an area that I would be looking at possibly getting some long side exposure with better risk to reward, right? Would be off of that 116.90 area. Even though we had a crazy bull market move yesterday, guys, what we did not have yesterday, and it's no fault of its own, but we had one trading session. So while this bull market gap fill setup is fantastic, what you have to remember is that we are still in a more bearish downtrending market. As of right now, we just crossed over the 200-day moving average for the first time since April. So trading those upside breakout setups has still been less than ideal compared to past conditions. So again, for me, my main focus is going to be if we get that pullback to 117, I do like the risk reward at yesterday's high for a long and see if we get that move over 119. If we open up over 119 and we're holding steadily, it'll just be a smaller position size for me because, again, the risk reward is a little bit different for me in terms of upside potential, right? Different type of trade at that point. So those are going to be my two primary main focuses. I do have some Coinbase overnight for that $46 daily breakout setup, just very small in size. I may just take profits on that off the open as we are up 1%. But again, guys, those are going to be my top two focus setups for this morning, Meta and Tesla. Going to be taking it easy, waiting for that A+ setup and being patient after the day that we had yesterday, guys. Cannot wait to start the month off with you guys. I will see you guys in the Discord live trading in about 30 seconds. See you there. Peace.